Lesson 2.3, converting between fractions and decimals. So you guys are doing the warm-up. Find the median of the data. So you're going to rearrange these. What's the smallest number? 15 would go first. What's the next one?
16.
What's the next one?
51.
What's the next one?
65. 74. 80. 91.
Good. So that would be the smallest to largest. Now tell me, what is the middle number? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 7 numbers. What is halfway between 7? 3.5. McDiego, what's the middle number? 65. Okay, as you're writing this in your journal. Wow, can't talk. Somebody tell me, what is a terminating decimal? Joaquin.
A decimal that ends.
A decimal that ends. Very good. What is a repeating decimal, Joel?
Repeating decimal is a decimal that has a pattern.
It's a pattern that repeats. It could be the same number over and over and over again. You see 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 forever. That's repeating. Sometimes it's a pattern like 5, 4, 5, 4, 5, 4. Or sometimes it's 4 numbers. 3, 368, 368, 368. Those are all repeating decimals. Question?
So like when I use my calculator, I add something. And then
When you divide, it's usually when you divide.
Yeah, like when you equal sign it. It's like 3, 3, 3, 9, 9, 9, 9.
Yep, same. Yep, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So right here, you see 2 examples of repeating decimals. You see negative 1.333, and if it was on your calculator, it would continue. Here is the way to shorten it when you write it on your papers. You're going to say 1.3, and whatever the repeating number is or pattern, you write that one time and put a bar across it. Put this in your journals. So if this one, 0.15, 15, 15, you see the repeating number is 1515. So I'm going to write it 0.15 because that's the thing that repeats, not just the number 1, right? So I'll put 15 and put a bar above that. So you got to pick whatever the pattern is, write it one time and put a bar over it. That demonstrates that it's the repeating decimal. Any questions between terminating decimal or repeating decimal? This is what your homework is going to be. So if you have a question, ask. Yes?
The terminating decimal is the first one?
The first one, right here. So these are both repeating because you see they both have a bar. So terminating, here's some examples of your terminating decimal. 1.5, negative 0.25, it stops. Even if it's a little longer, 10.824, but it stops. It has an ending. That's your terminating decimal. We typically use terminating decimal more than the repeating decimals. Okay, and terminating decimals are easier to flip into a fraction. Repeating decimals are not easy to change into a fraction. So we got this?
Yes.
Okay, you need to sketch this in your journals. Okay, we're going to talk about the different types of numbers. Okay? Rational numbers, you can see there's 4 examples here. It includes everything. It encompasses everything. Whole numbers, integers, rational numbers. It includes our repeating decimals, doesn't it? It includes our fractions. It includes mixed numbers. It includes a decimal. It also includes a negative 10 whole integer and a whole number. Okay? Integers are whole numbers that can be negative or positive. You see that? Because it includes the whole numbers in it. And whole numbers can only be positive or 0. They can't be negative. Okay? Does everybody understand how to look at that chart now?
Yes.
Good. All right, let me go through the example 1. Is everybody ready or you need just a moment? Okay, I'll give you one moment. Okay, so for this example, we're going to write negative 2 1/4 as a decimal. Okay, first of all, when you're rewriting this, do you have a question or are you just jumping to my question? You're trying to answer my question? Okay, I'll call on you. Just give me a sec. When you are writing this as a decimal, does the sign change? No. So we already know that it's going to be a negative something. Okay? Do we have a whole number here? Yeah, what's the whole number? 2. So I already know it's negative 2 point, and that fraction is the portion that changes to a decimal. You can do this on your calculator. You can do it by hand. I'm going to teach you both. Shh. So, doing it by hand, they're doing it a little bit more difficult. They made it an improper fraction, and then you're going to divide 4 into 9. Okay, don't do that. That's the long way.
That's how I was taught.
This is how you were taught. This is correct. It's a fantastic way to do it. 4 goes into 9. How many times? 2 with 8. So we subtract. We get 1 left over. 4 goes into 10 twice, which is 8. Get 2 left over. You subtract again, you get 5. That's great. Okay? But there's an easier way to do this. Shall I teach you the easier way? Does it teach you? Okay. No, because I think my way's easier. Look, I found out I can draw on here.
Whoa.
I know, I'm super excited. Let's see how this works. Okay. So instead of doing a mixed number, or an improper number, we already know that it's negative. This is awesome. Ooh, negative 2, right? Because that whole number is still there. That's a terrible. Oh, it went away. All right, let me get my whiteboard. Hold on. That's lame. I was all excited. All right, so again, we have negative 8th grade 2 1/4, right? This is what we're trying to change. So instead of making this improper, let's just deal with the first portion, which is negative 2, right? We know that's not going to change. Negative 2. So now let's just deal with the fraction. This is the portion you're going to make a decimal. Now there's 2 ways to do that, 3 ways to do this. You can use your calculator. You can think in money terms, or we can do the division. So let's do division first. When you're changing a fraction to a decimal, you divide the bottom number into the top number. Write this down. I want all 3 of these examples in your journals. Can 4 go into 1? No, so we're going to put a decimal here, bring it straight up, and add a 0, and add a 0. Can 4 go into 10?
Yes.
How many times?
1, 2.
2 times, which is what?
8.
So I'm going to put an 8. What is 10 minus 8?
2.
2. So I'm going to put a 2. Okay, I need to divide all the way till this is done, so I'm going to put another 0. Bring my 0 down. 20. 4 goes into 20 how many times?
5.
5 times. Which is 20, right? So then my remainder is 0, so I'm done. So, now I know this is 0 right here, but remember, what do we put as our whole number? Because we already have a whole number.
2.
So 2 is already there, put my decimal, and then what is my fraction? 0.25.
Wow.
So my answer is 2.25.
No negative.
The negative's there because we're just converting it so the negative stays. Okay, so this is your answer. Now, what's another way I told you we could do this? Calculator. All right, let me grab my calculator. And you can always check your work using a calculator.
Wow.
I've lost my calculator. Okay, shh. I don't know where my pink calculator, which looks like your blue one, so I'm using one slightly different. Still works. Okay, so to change this to a decimal, just type in negative 2 1/4. You guys remember how to make that fraction?
Yeah.
2 1/4 on your calculator. Right? Now you're going to hit the fraction to decimal button.
Which one is
So you're going to hit the second, and then where it says F to D,
Yes.
and then you'll get
0.
negative 2.25.
Oh,
I put the whole original number, negative 2 1/4.
Oh. I do. Wait.
Yes, now hit the fraction to decimal button.
Wait, what number is it?
Okay, too much all at once, guys. So you're typing the original number, this negative 2 1/4. So negative 2 and 1/4. You guys remember how to write that as a fraction in your calculators, yes?
And then you can flip it to check your answer.
And then you can also flip it to check your answer.
I'm gonna try.
So you changed it to improper fraction. You need to hit the F to D number, not the fraction to mixed improper fraction. You want to go fraction to decimal. It'll work from the negative 9/4 too. Okay, then you did not put in the right fraction. Check your fraction. Negative 2 and 1/4. Okay, the last thing is to use mental math here. Shh. 8th grade. Shh. So we already knew that it was negative 2, right? So all we had to do was convert the 1/4. When you're dealing in fourths, I think of money. How many quarters fit in a dollar? 4 quarters, right? So if I divide the whole number into 4, I can think quarters. How much is one? Samuel! I'm competing with you to lecture. Y'all need to whisper. How many quarters do we have out of this 4 quarters? 1. So what? How much does a quarter represent?
25.
So looky here. We have 25.
Wow.
You make me so happy. Wow, it's so exciting, Mrs. Cease. All right, so those are your 3 different ways. You can convert fraction to decimals from using division. You can use your calculator, or you can use mental math if it's a fraction that's easy to do it with. All right, do your try-its. Oh, there's another method. You can use equivalent fractions. Woo, that takes forever too. All right. Shh. Example 2. We're going to write negative 0.26 as a fraction in simplest form. What does it mean when I say simplest form?
It means that it has to be simplified.
Izzy.
It means that you have, okay, it means you have simplified the fraction so that it is, well, not smaller, but like,
There's a one-word answer that starts with R.
so like,
Reduction.
There it is.
yay! I was gonna just, so like, for example, you have 2/4, you could divide it by 2 and
Yep.
get,
You're reducing. That's all. You're reducing. So you're taking whatever fraction is and reducing it to the lowest fraction that you can.
didn't know how to do it.
Reducing. That's the word I was looking for. All right. Shh. When you read this, you read this as negative 26 hundredths. You guys understand that?
Yes.
Because this is tenths and this is hundredths. Place value? Okay. So let's... Shh. Not going to allow you to work together if you can't whisper. Okay, we already know the answer is going to be negative, right? Because we're just converting. We're not adding or subtracting or anything, so we're going to get a negative. What would be the top of this fraction, just starting, Sam?
15.
Joelle?
26.
26. Okay, you put this decimal up here on 26 at the top. Okay, what would be the number underneath, Joelle?
100.
100. Why is it 100?
Yes.
Because what?
It's always 100.
It's not always 100.
The last digit
Elliot?
is 100.
Because so that when you get 100, you divide it, and it gets.
No. Why is it always 100? Joelle said it. Go ahead, Joelle. Shh. You're not Joelle.
In the hundredth place.
Because this 6 is the hundredths place value. If I had 3 decimals, it'd be the thousandths, and we'd put it over how many?
100. I don't know.
26.
Thousandths. I just said the place value. So whatever the place value is, that's what number goes on the bottom. So this is the hundredths place value, so you put 100 on the bottom. If it was 1 decimal, say it was 0.2, what would be the bottom number?
10.
10, because this is the tenths. Very good. Got it?
Yes.
Okay, good. So 26 goes on top. Hundredths goes on bottom, so we put 100. 26 over 100 so far. Do we have a fraction now?
Yes.
Absolutely. But is it in simplest form?
No.
How do we know that right away?
Divided by 2.
But how do we know?
Oh.
You are right, but how do we know? Because they're both even numbers.
Yay!
So divide both by 2,
Which will equal 13.
which will give us 13 over 50.
They both be odd numbers. They both be odd numbers.
Some odd numbers, if they're both odd numbers, can be divided by what?
3.
3 or
9.
5.
5.
9 is very rare.
It still happens. 27 and 54.
So then your simplified fraction is 13 over 50. This is an odd number over an even number, yes?
Yes.
So you are as simplified as you're going to get.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the second way we can do this? Shh. Anybody? What's a second way we can do? We just did it by hand. I heard it. Calculator. So everybody get your calculator. We're going to practice this. Our original number is what?
Negative 0.26.
Negative 0.26. Type that in your calculator. Shh. What button am I going to push? Second and then fraction to decimal. Everybody do it. Second, fraction to decimal. The really cool thing, listen, the really cool thing is it does what automatically? It simplifies it for you automatically. So it is handy for you to know how to do this. Guys, I recommend you know how to do this, but you can always check your work using a calculator. Okay, I'll come show you in just a second. Okay, go ahead and do your next. Try it. Okay, this is example 3. The table shows the elevations of 4 sea creatures relative to sea level. Which of the sea creatures are deeper than the whale? Explain. All right, so what is sea level off the top of your head? Do you guys know?
0.
0. So are these all under the ocean or above the ocean?
Under.
That makes sense. They're all fish, sea creatures. So which sea creatures are deeper? Okay, off the top of your head, what numbers are going to be deeper or further away from 0?
15.
No, not a number, just what numbers in general.
Oh.
They're all negative.
Biggest number.
The bigger number. The bigger the negative, the further away from 0 it is going to be, right? Yes. Say yes.
Yeah.
So we can use a number line by writing fractions on a number line. So easiest thing to do, actually I don't like making them improper. But you could make them decimals. If decimals are easier for you to look at than fractions, I would make them a decimal. So negative 13 over 10 would be negative 1.3.
Yes.
You writing this in your journal?
Yes.
Negative 2 over 11. That one's not easy to do by hand, so maybe grab your calculator. What would negative 2 over 11 be as a fraction?
Yes.
You going to give me an answer or just say yes?
C.
What's negative 2 over 11 as a decimal?
Negative 0.18.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, they did the thing. It is a repeating decimal. You see how it goes over and over and over again. Negative 0.18. Okay? The squid, negative 2 and 1/5. What is that as a decimal?
Negative 2.2.
Negative 2.2. Very good. And what is the whale?
The whale.
Negative 0.8.
Negative 0.8, yes.
Yes, because it's already a decimal. All right. So now we need to put this on a number line. So you got your 4 decimals, yes?
Yes.
Does everybody have those? I think it's going to make me go to another screen.
I don't.
Okay, I'll give you just a second.
Oh, there's a.
That's
That's my friend.
You're friends with squids?
And this is my friend Boyle.
Okay, here's the 4 decimals. They rewrote them for you guys. Okay, so we're going to draw a number line and graph these. Now, could I have used a vertical number line?
Yes.
Yeah, because this is under the ocean, so I could put 0 up here and go down with my vertical numbers, if you wanted to, visually. But horizontal's fine too. So let's graph each of these. Negative 1.3, so I start at 0 and I go where?
Down.
Down how far? Past the whole number 1. 1.2, where would 1.3 be?
There.
Somewhere in here.
Middle. Wow, you did.
It's like I know what I'm doing. It's shocking.
Wow.
Okay, where would negative 0.18 be? I'd start at 0 and I go to the left. How far? 0.18 is not even 0.2, is it?
No.
So it's just barely going to be here. Because this is 0.2 right here, and it's just under 0.2, right? 18.
Yeah.
18 is just less than 20. All right, the next one, negative 2.2. So I start at 0 and I go down to, how much further? 0.2, right? This is 0.2, this is 0.4, so it's going to be right here.
Yay.
Okay, my last one, the whale, negative 0.8. So it's not quite a whole, oh, look, it's here. Boom.
Yes.
Okay, what was the question asking us?
Which of the creatures are deeper than the whale?
Which creatures are deeper than the whale? So we find the whale. Which creatures are to the left of the whale?
Anglerfish and squid.
Anglerfish and the squid.
Angerfish.
Anglerfish, yes. Anglerfish.
Anger.
Because both of those are smaller. Or both of those are further negative, deeper than the whale. All right, any questions?
No.
Do you have to do the whole?
Do you have to graph it on a number line? That's a great question. Do you have to graph it on a number line?
Yes.
No.
No. If you can look at the decimals and know which ones are small or larger than negative 0.8, that are more negative, then you can just write it down. If you need the visual, or if it specifically tells you in the question to graph it, that's when you have to do it.
Follow your heart.
All right. Okay, so you need to finish. I'll go back in just a second. You need to finish the 16 and 17 self-assessment.